Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Carrie Swore. I'm Chief Growth Officer for Urban Teachers and excited to have folks on the line. So I did advertise this as a Q&A with folks in our program, and with everyone's busy schedules, it is going to be folks will be joining us as we go. I do have Megan Healy, who's with us, who's a fellow in cohort 2014 from Baltimore. So we'll get to talk with her about her experience. All the rest of the folks that will be coming on are residents, so in their first year. So Megan is our veteran, and also our only person joining us from Baltimore today. So I'm first going to quickly run through two slides, and then we'll start with some of my questions, and I'm happy to open it up to folks on the call. If you want to post some questions in the Q&A, actually, somebody might have already put something in the chat. Use the chat. Oh, okay. So actually, I have more people. So Emily and Amelia are here already, too. So I take it back. Thank you. So I think the person that will not make it here on time is is Terrence from Dallas-Fort Worth. But he knows that he needs to be thinking of all the great things about Dallas as soon as he gets on. So quickly here, I'm just going to talk very briefly through the two slides. So here, very quickly here, we have right now for recruitment, we're looking for folks who have their bachelor's degree by June. We like to see experience, and Terrence is calling me now, so I'm gonna not take it, unfortunately. So hopefully he'll join in a minute. We do prefer a 3.0 GPA, and then we're also able to go down to a 2.75 for outstanding candidates, and have a little bit more wiggle room in DC and Dallas-Fort Worth for folks with STEM backgrounds and who already work with some of our school partners. There is an online application, a digital interview, and then a final interview, and then you are hopefully selected for our program. Our program is a 4-year commitment. It is a year-long residency followed by a 3-year teaching commitment. You're co-teaching during your residency while you're earning your master's degree. For our cohort 2016 and on, it is our higher ed partners, Johns Hopkins University School of Ed. You have to meet certain bars to move on each year of our program. So you have to meet certain GPA requirements, meet teaching practice expectations. Okay, so I have Terrence who's trying to get on. Let me see how I do that while I do the presentation at the same time. I'm going to finish my presentation, and then Megan, when you talk, I'm going to send them the link. So I wish I knew how to do it quickly. Hold on, let me see if I can do it quickly. I think I will need help. I need to, in a minute, Megan, I'm going to have you talk for a while I go help him. All right, so just finishing up here, we have high accountability for each part of our program. And then after the residency is your first year of teaching, you finish up your master's degree. Year 3 is when you get certified with us, either elementary, secondary ELA, so English Language Arts, or secondary math and special ed. So you get at least 2. Dallas-Fort Worth, you get 3 because you also get English as a second language. Year 4 is your 4th year with us, 1 more year as part of your commitment, and many folks take on teacher leadership roles at that point. I do want to say here too, over the first 3 years, you get one-on-one coaching over 100 hours. And then here, I just wanted to talk quickly through, so if folks were on my webinar that I just did, this is a new slide. So that really has all the costs and benefits, and I know it's got a lot of words, but just quickly you can see how the costs and benefits literally work for year 1. Let me just, I'm texting him. I will help in 1 sec. So benefits, $20,000 stipend. We pay for your room and board for Summer Institute. Healthcare through Johns Hopkins School of Ed. We pay for your books and materials. You get 36 hours of one-on-one coaching. You're eligible for federal financial aid. You also are eligible for a Siegel AmeriCorps Ed Award. So that's typically worth about $5,700. There is 2 bills for your for the tuition, one in the fall and one in the spring, each for $10,000 each. You do have to pay for your Praxis 2 and PAC tests. Year 2, again, you get full teacher salary and benefits, again, books and materials, coaching. You're eligible for loan forbearance, actually both years. eligible for financial aid, another Siegel Award, and we also pay for your second summer of instruction. Again, those two bills, but hopefully all those benefits really go a long way to supporting you in helping you with the tuition. There's a lot of other resources on our website regarding financial aid, including if you look into the year 6, there's loan forgiveness for teachers. You can get up to $17,500 given back if you are loan forgiveness if you teach math or special ed, or $5,000 for other subjects. And participants may also be eligible for teach grants, so worth up to $4,000 a year while completing our program. So lots. So what we do like to say, it pays to be great. Also, is that all the cities that we work in DC, Baltimore, and Dallas-Fort Worth, has some of the highest teacher salaries in the nation. Effective teachers can earn up to 6 figures in some of our cities, so that teachers do get paid more for being effective in the cities that we work in. So by design of being successful at Urban Teachers, hopefully that you would be in a really good situation to more quickly move up the salary ladder because you're effective. So that's what I just wanted to briefly sort of ground the conversation before I move over to Q&A. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself while I track down Terrence?
Sure. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Healy. I am a fellow in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I moved down here to join the Urban Teachers Program in 2014. So I have exited the coaching. Actually, I have one more coaching session, which I'm very excited about coming up. And after that, I'm officially just a teacher that's fulfilling my commitment to Baltimore City. I'm looking at the questions that Carrie sent me, so please excuse me. So I work in 4th grade in an area of Baltimore that's primarily Spanish speakers. So I teach a lot of ESOL students. I teach 4th grade STEM and social studies. Last year I was at the same school and I taught 4th grade math. And the year before that, when I was a resident, I did my residency year at the same school. So even though I've only been a teacher of record for 2 years, I've been in my school for 3 years, which is great because I have really good relationships with the staff and obviously the families of all of my students. One of the most important things in a teaching program when I was looking, I was about to graduate from my undergrad. I knew that I wanted to go into education, but I didn't really know how to go about it because I didn't major in education. So I started looking at the different programs, and what I really liked about Urban Teachers was the long commitment. I had done a ton of readings about teacher turnover rates in urban settings, and I really liked the idea that not only are they providing me with coaching, but they're also expecting me to be there for 4 years, which working in an inner city school with other teaching programs, I see people going in and out, in and out. And so I felt that was the most important thing for me when I chose UT over other programs. In terms of preparation, I would argue that UT has made me the teacher that I am. It is a difficult job, but having the coaching that they provide has been incredibly helpful. I'm still very close with my coaches that I've had over the last 3 years, which is really great because even though I'm exiting the coaching, I will have them as mentors. And I can definitely see the difference between my program versus other programs. There are a few programs that operate inside of Baltimore City, including Teach for America, and there's a local one that also works. And I can just see that the support that I get is so much more than what the other first-year teachers got when I was a first-year teacher last year. If I ever had an issue, I could email and ask for support. I could ask my coach. I could ask my professors. Everyone is local, which is nice. And their caseloads, I guess, with coachees isn't as high as the other programs. So I know that one of my coworkers was constantly trying to get in touch with her coach, but they had like 37 people. So it was difficult. Sorry, Carrie, I'm just going through the questions.
Yeah. And feel free to ask. So I think my problem is I'm recording, so I cannot get parents in. So I'm looking to see how I can do that. But
okay. So the next question that she had asked was, how is Urban Teachers preparing you to be a great teacher? Honestly, I would argue the coaching aligned with the master's degree because it was great. As I was going through the master's, I would come into my classroom the next day and immediately be able to implement something that I'd learned about in class or I'd read about for a reading, which was amazing, especially in the residency year when you're a student teacher. I could come in and say something to my host teacher and ask if I could try it. And, most of the time she would say, sure, do whatever you want. And so it's a really great learning year to try all of the different strategies that you're learning in your coursework. A typical day obviously depends on what part of the program you're in. I won't talk that much about residency here because I know that we're going to have residents on the call. So I'm a fellow year 2, which means that I'm in my 2nd year of teaching. I finished my master's. So honestly, day to day, I don't talk to urban teachers anymore. I've exited that part of the program besides corresponding with my coach about when they're coming in. Once you've exited your master's degree, it becomes mainly just for the coaching. It's a lot heavier early on in the program. One of the things that surprises me about teaching is all of the unexpected challenges throughout the day, but that isn't always a bad thing. So obviously teaching, you have to be on your toes all the time. But the thing is the kids really care about you, and it shows every day that you show up. And the challenges that come with working in an inner city school is definitely different than I think it would be in other settings, but it's also very rewarding to see the growth within your own students. So that's something that I think surprises me. And that goes into what is so rewarding is really the students. They make every day better. And when we have a bad day, we come in the next day and it's a brand new day. It's like it never happened. That's something I really appreciate about this job. So I'm going to go on a tangent and kind of rep Baltimore because Baltimore is my favorite. So I've been here for 3 years. I love Baltimore because it's a smaller city and people nickname it Smaltimore because you tend to run into people at different areas of the city. It's definitely very neighborhood based. So each neighborhood has its own kind of flavor. So depending on what your interests are or what you like for a living situation, you could end up in a different kind of neighborhood. I like Baltimore because I feel like it's a major city without some of the aspects of a major city, I guess. I like the fact that it's small. I like the fact that I can ride my bike downtown from where I live. We have sports here like the Orioles, and we have M&T Bank Stadium for the Ravens. And I like knowing that I can live near where I work. So I'm fortunate I live in a neighborhood that borders the neighborhood that I work in, so I can walk to school. I see my kids at the park, which is sometimes kind of funny. I'll be walking my dog and see students. So that's kind of nice. And I like that feel about Baltimore. Oh, more people. Yay.
I figured it out, everybody.
Awesome. And I think I've almost answered every single question. Okay. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions for me, but I would definitely root for Baltimore because it's a city in the making, I would call it. So.
Great. Thank you, Megan.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, other panelists. I just figured it out. I'm sorry. So let's, and you all are like on time, and you told me you weren't. So that's a very nice surprise. So I did want to, how about we have our DC folks, Amelia and Emily. Can you unmute yourself, or think I can, if you want to introduce yourself? Yep. Oop, I just did it. Okay, go ahead. Now you two introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'll go first.
Uh-huh.
I am Amelia Black, and I'm from Rochester, New York. Yeah, I guess I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I did this program in high school where I had to work with a bunch of kids, and I guess it was like pretty much day to day wanting to go home and tell everyone all of these stories about all these kids that I was working with made me realize, like, okay, I think I want to work with kids long term. But then in college, I majored in philosophy and French, didn't take any education courses. And then it wasn't until senior year, which was last year, that I really was like, wait, what about teaching? That's really what I want to do. Also I am in DC and I teach 4th and 5th grade math right now. So what was most important to me in the teacher preparation program was really the preparation. Like, I feel like a lot of like teacher preparation programs, like you come out of them and you don't know what to do. And as someone who didn't study education, I really wanted a program that would prepare me to walk into a classroom the first day when I had one to myself, knowing what to do. And that's definitely why I chose Urban Teachers over other programs, because this is our residency year. And so we go to work every day in a classroom with a teacher who knows what they're doing and get to see that every day and practice with that person in the room. And so already I feel a million times more prepared for next year than I did when I first stepped into a classroom. That's also, how I think Urban Teachers is preparing us to be great teachers. Because I do see other teachers and other programs, like Teach for America or whatever, where it's like they go into the program and then they're dropped in a classroom and feel super overwhelmed. And I think the key is the residency year, because it really allows you to get a sense of what you're doing, get strategies, get ideas, get that first year of your master's in, before you ever are in charge of making the plans and making the routines all on your own. Typical day, like, with Urban Teachers is definitely different for us than it is for a fellow, because we go to work every day. So like I get to school like 7:15 and I'm there until 4. And then classes start at 5:30 and they normally end at around 8:30. Sometimes like tonight we got out early. So it's pretty intense, but it's also like all very targeted. So we go to classes and we learn things that we're then told to do in our classrooms. So like today, a lot of our class was planning out a lesson that we're going to be teaching. So you do get to kind of double up, and I have to be teaching my students anyways, and this gives me time to actually work on it with an instructor who knows what they're doing and can give me strategies. What surprised me most about teaching? I guess it is how flexible you have to be, because there are all sorts of things that happen every day, just like Megan said, where
I messed up a lot today. I'll own up.
the printer,
a lot of snafus.
the copy machine is busy. Like you have to print days in advance. I've learned, and like little things like that. And what's really rewarding is just every time a student shows some sort of growth where you realize like, wow, they got that lesson. They're doing something really well that I know they couldn't do before. And I think that like, I can see this affecting their learning long term. Favorite part of living in DC is that it's DC. It's the best. Like Baltimore, I'm sure is great, but like I love DC. Before I advise Emily, you go.
Okay. My name is Emily Chalmers, and I am from Chicago. I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I studied education in undergrad, but I didn't complete my education degree through a turn of events in undergrad. So when I graduated, I did City Year for 2 years in Cleveland, and Urban Teachers is a big partnership with City Year, and I knew that I wanted to do a residency, and I got a lot of advice from people who actually did other residencies that said, do Urban Teachers, it's going to prepare you the best. So that's why I chose Urban Teachers. What other questions are there? I teach a combined preschool pre-K class that is also an inclusion classroom. How is teacher training to be? To be a great teacher. I would agree with Amelia that everything is very targeted, and like everything that we learn in class at night, like I can implement the next day. And like even a lot of things that are said by like my host teacher like literally said something the other day at 3:00 in the afternoon, and then I went to class at night and they said the exact same thing. And I was like, okay, maybe you guys are all onto something here.
Can you tell us what it was? Do you remember?
Yeah. So we have a lot of tantruming in my class, which definitely happens with 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds, especially when kids are developmentally delayed as well. And so my host teacher had said, because we immediately were like removing this one student to go to the quiet space to take a breather. And my host teacher was like, oh, like you need to ask her, like, what does she need? Like to the bottom of where the tantrum started, instead of just like immediately removing the class. And my professor was like, yeah. So she was like, the first thing you should always do is ask them what they need. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You guys know each other here. A typical day, just like Amelia said, is long and busy, but it is worth it, and preschoolers nap, so that's kind of nice. What surprised me most about teaching, I would say, like, specifically about teaching preschool is it definitely wasn't my first choice. Like, I'll be honest about that. Like, I applied to the elementary cohort and then was placed in preschool. It is definitely the amount of thoughtfulness and like meaning behind everything in a preschool classroom. Like, you would really just think that like you go to preschool and like you play and you practice your letters and your numbers, but like every single detail is thought out and there's a meaning behind it and there's a purpose and they're supposed to learn from it and they're supposed to take like a very specific thing from it. And it's really cool to see. And now I'm like thinking that way of like, what can I do for my students? Like, what do I want them to get from this? What will be like the learning target, which I guess is applicable to all grades. My favorite part of living in DC, I also love DC. Go DC. As a native Chicagoan, I definitely love DC. I love DC because it's also kind of like a smaller city, but it feels very big, but it's also like very easy to navigate. There's stuff to do everywhere. I love it.
Good food.
Yeah, good food everywhere. Fun things to do. What's your advice?
Yeah.
We can say that towards the end.
Okay, perfect.
Let's get Terrence, and Terrence is a City Year alum too.
Look at that.
Right, I'm gonna mute you guys, okay? And then I'm gonna. Yep, Terrence, you unmuted yourself. Yeah, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone. So as she said, my name is Terrence Smith. I am way from Florida, and I'm here in Dallas, Fort Worth. I knew I wanted to be a teacher as soon as I could talk. It was something about, I immediately realized as a child that I didn't see a reflection of myself in teaching. And because of that, I really wanted to be a teacher. And I studied teaching in my undergrad. And I was actually offered a teaching position after I graduated college, but I knew I wasn't ready. So like she said, I did City Year, which is just an amazing program that prepared me a little more to be a teacher, but I still didn't feel as though I had what it took to truly and effectively touch students. So I've heard about urban teachers, and I met this wonderful lady named Ms. Huggins, and she was just amazing, and she really just sold urban teachers to me. And then as I researched it more, I just realized it was really what I needed to become and gain the knowledge that it takes to truly be a teacher, because it just isn't what you think. It's just not what you think at all. What I think what was most important. So what I think I love most about this program is, like most people have said, what you learn in the coursework and in all our seminars and workshops, you really can take that the very next day and implement and just see a huge change in student success and student behavior. Like, it amazes me how quick the turnaround is when you just take the things that you've actually learned within this program and implement it in your classroom. So I'm in a fifth grade class. No, I'm currently in a fourth grade. I was this past semester I was in fifth grade, but I'm currently in a fourth grade classroom, self-contained classroom. So we cover all subjects. A typical day for urban teachers, like they all say, we wake up at my first alarm of like 10 is at 5 o'clock. And then I end up having to be to work around 7:30, from 7:30 to 3, and then I have class from 4:15 to 7. So I'm currently in our classroom now. Dallas Fort Worth, we have a unique situation. I'm not sure how how it is in Baltimore and DC, but we're taking our college classes in the elementary school currently. So that's cool. You know, we can also I think it helps being in this elementary environment and learning about elementary like content and strategies. It just helps. I don't know how, but it just does.
Yeah, we've always done it that way. So that is your lab, right?
Yeah, it's like a laboratory. Yeah, it just really works. And I think the most rewarding part of being a teacher or being an urban teacher is just seeing those aha moments in the classroom. Like, you just see so many aha moments, so many smiles. Like, I work with students who have a lot of developmental challenges. So in the 5th grade, when I was working 5th grade, you would see them cry over simple stuff like, oh, somebody took my pencil, or somebody won't get their elbow off my desk. And these are the kind of issues we have constantly. Or they'll get an assignment and immediately say, I can't do this, without even reading the directions, just I can't do this. So having those, and with Urban Teachers, you learn ways to like coach and talk one-on-one with students, verbiage that I wouldn't have had I just went into teaching. So you learn just strategies and verbiage that really, really works. And it just turns a child's whole perspective around, and turns your perspective around as well as the teacher.
Great. I wanted to go off script a little bit and ask a question about if you could describe sort of what you get from your coach. And Megan, Megan's still getting coaching as her 3rd year also. And so just wanted you to talk about like some things that you've gotten that has helped you from your coach and that relationship you have with them. Who would like to take that?
Well, I have an amazing coach. I think she is probably the best person I ever met in my life. And they come into the classroom. Sometimes sometimes you know, sometimes you don't know. I actually prefer to not know, because I like her to see me in my rawest form. I think even when I try to be as as just myself as possible, when I know she's coming, I still kind of like change things up. So I like the surprise effect. And her coaching is very like laid back, where she's not like just follow me around the classroom in my ear. She holds up signs that let me know what I need to do, like circulate, or like she lets me know without letting everyone know that she's my coach. And we debrief at least once a week. She comes to see me at least once a month, twice actually, at least twice a month. And I just feel like I could always go to her. And any coach within our program, but specifically her, I feel like I can go with her with any question, any concern, and it doesn't fall on deaf ears. And she really provides valuable feedback.
Great. Anybody else? Baltimore, DC?
So I would say I have a really good relationship with my coach. I've had 2 different coaches. So the way that the program works, I don't know, Carrie, they're kind of switching it up every year that I've been in it a little bit, but you have a coach and then you have someone else that also comes observe you. But I've been fortunate enough to kind of know my coach for the last 2 years. She's been my primary coach. And then my first year was one of my professors was also one of my coach. And what was great is that I could really go to them with anything. I'm not going to lie. I struggled in my residency year. It's a trying year usually for most people anyway, but I particularly had a hard time making the transition from, being the person watching versus leading the class. And so what was great was I could go to my coach and say, I tried this, it didn't work. What do I do? And they're able to work with me, and they also see my class. So they could say, oh, well, you know that Josie's going to act like this during their lesson. So what are you going to do to make sure he stays engaged? And that's really helpful, because when you're building the mind of a teacher, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. I was like, okay, I need to teach them this. This is what I'm going to do. It'll be great. But they are able to throw back at you like, what about that one student? What about this thing? And so that's really helpful too, because it really helps you to reflect on how you plan and how you prepare for the day. And when it goes bad, you have someone to ask, like, can you tell me what I can do better, because I can't figure it out at this moment. So that's something that I appreciate. And I definitely advocate for this program specifically for the coaching, because it really made me the teacher that I am today. So
great. All right, Emily or Amelia or both? Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Okay, so I would agree that they are very supportive. I don't see my coach as often as Terrence, but she is definitely available. And like the unique and nice thing about my coach is she actually taught my host teacher. She was one of my host teachers, professor for her master's. She didn't do urban teachers, but my coach was working at another university in DC. So it's nice that everyone knows each other and everyone knows like their style and how to communicate, because my coach is very unique with her style, but we have a very good working relationship.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not in super close contact with my coach, but I think that for me is because she's there if I ever need her. But my host teacher, actually went through the program and has been an instructor. And so whenever I have questions or need support in teaching, she's the woman I see every day. So I ask her most of those questions, and she is always so great about answering them, helps me with assignments if I'm having problems. So I do think that like having a mentor is so important, and what makes this program great. Just for me, it's more my host teacher than my coach, but my coach is also great. So.
Great. So I wanted to ask you too, because another, really, I think, component of our program that's different in the field is that everybody gets that second focus on special ed in the second certification. So I've heard two of you talk about already working in self-contained classes. So so you two, Terrence and Emily, you would do too, both of you. But so if there's anything more you want to say about that, but for Megan and Amelia, if there's, how you use what you're learning in the special ed classes in your classroom with, just explain like how that's useful to you too.
That's one of the most useful things, I think, even in a gen ed class, because
general education, just to translate.
Yeah, because like when you have a classroom of like 25 kids or whatever, not everyone is going to learn in the same way. And sometimes in a general education classroom, that's what the expectation is. But our special education courses really help us learn to differentiate. So like to come up with different strategies of teaching kids. And I feel like that's just as important with your kids who are not in a special education program or in a special education classroom, because they all need different ways to access materials. And I feel like I use that literally every day.
And I would agree, obviously. Technically, I am in what DCF calls a 10-6 classroom. So 10 of my students are typically developing, and 6 of them are developmentally delayed. And that ranges from like students who can't talk to kids with autism. Like it is literally across the range. So I would just agree that like everything in my special ed classes is so useful, and my coach also has a very extensive background in special ed and in early childhood. So like I know that I can trust what she is suggesting that I do, and that I can go to her and that she'll have a solution, or she'll be able to like work it out, or she knows like she's been through similar situations or things like that.
Megan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so I would say I agree with everything that they both just said. I would also say that it makes you more prepared for meetings. So although I'm a general educator, I'm constantly evaluating whether my kids are understanding or if there's a learning disability or something like that. And so you learn a ton of strategies on how to take the proper notes. So when you come to a meeting, you can share what you found. It makes it easier to understand the IEPs. So I have a bunch of kids within my 3 classes that I teach that have various different accommodations and modifications, all that stuff in their IEPs. And when you look at it, I initially was very stressed out because I'm like, oh my God, I need to do all of this stuff. But going through the classes really helps to prepare you as a general educator. And actually what's lucky for me is my special educator that's on my 4th and 5th grade team is a UT alum. So she's in her last year, so she's a year above me. So we came through the same program, so we have that in common, but we've been able to work really closely together with all of my students. So that's been really awesome. So I'd say it just overall, it prepares you. You need to know special ed if you're going to be a special educator, obviously, or a general educator. So I'd say that it's a definite plus.
Great. All right, I got a question from somebody who's listening in, and they want to know if the program's good for career changers. So technically, you city here folks, I could say you're career changers, but you're still young. So I know you know older folks in your cohort, all of you. So if there's anything that you can add, and just for this person who's asking, I am hoping to do a Q&A with the older folks in our program and some who are parents. So, but I haven't scheduled it yet. But if you all can speak for the folks that are older in all of your cohorts. So most people are in their 20s. I do want to own up to that. And in fact, probably I think 38% of our cohorts come right out of college, but the rest, at least a year or two, a good chunk come, with 1 to 3 years of experience. And as a recruiter, we definitely think we're good for career changers, but I do want you to hear from folks in our program to see what they have to say.
We have, I know a couple of my cohort people who are not my cohort who changed their careers. Like one girl was she did something with science. So she worked in labs all day. Mm-hmm. And then another young lady, she has a master's degree already in business. So she was working in the business field. But you learn that the things that you get in this program and from other careers, you can bring into the teaching atmosphere. Like teaching is everything. It is everything compiled into one. So changing your career, you may not be doing the same thing like that you were before, but you'll be able to implement it within your lessons, within your classrooms, and I think it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, one of my roommates worked on Wall Street for a while and then decided she wanted to be a teacher. And I know that this program has been great for her just because she can really kind of apply the same skills that she learned there. Like she's very dedicated. She has great follow through, and those are things that you can really use as a teacher and need as a teacher. Yeah, so I think if this is what you want to do, like career changing, great.
Yep. Megan, do you want to represent Baltimore?
Yeah, there are a few people in my cohort that are career changers or came later to teaching, I guess, than myself. But I think that it has been great. It's such a supportive program, and they're pretty supportive too if you have a family or if you have kids. I know a bunch of people in my cohort either had young kids when they joined or had kids when they were already in the program. So I know that UT is really flexible and helps you work through anything that comes up. So I would say it's a good step for career changers.
Great. So one of the questions I'm getting, if students primarily come to our program with an undergraduate degree in education, and I would say that's very rare, though 2 of you said it today. Very rare. We definitely recruit in all majors, and it is we are very, very rare do we have an education major in our group. So they're all shaking their heads, but yeah, even though 2 of you said it today. Any other questions? We'll see if there are some more questions here. Terrence, I don't think you really spoke to what it's like living in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Am I muted?
Can you do that?
That is amazing.
Yeah. The other two cities had their time, so I do want you to have that time.
I'm from a very, very small city in Florida, so like highways and stuff is new to me, and and I just love it. Like it's just so much to do here. There's concerts every week. There's like food, tacos galore. I promise you, I had never eaten a taco before I moved here, and it sounds bad. I am not addicted to those things. Food is like a thing here.
Yes, it is.
And just entertainment. But you will learn I'm not sure how it is in the other cohorts. And this is also a new cohort. So we're the founding cohort this year. So we're very close. And you will find that most of your downtime will be spent with the people who you sit in class with every day, or at least for us. We have so many socials and just we go out a lot together and explore the city. And maybe just because it's our first year, so we haven't got tired of each other yet, but we tear this city apart. It is blue and white everywhere. I promise you.
Yeah, and the other cities you want to talk about your cohort. So in DC, you both are residents too, and how tight or not the cohort is, and then Megan, how much you're in touch with everybody still.
I would say our cohort is definitely pretty close. Yeah. We also tear up DC together. People, it's very common for residents to live together. Yeah. So I have one other roommate who is a resident, and you could talk about your situation.
Yeah, I live with like 4 or 5. I live with a bunch of residents in a house.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we recommend. And you all, I think, all of you moved from somewhere else, which isn't also the case. There are people who are from these cities that are in our cohorts too, but that's not represented here tonight. But I think you all would say like it's been nice to have this cohort to be able to move in, like, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but having that network, I think, is helpful when you're moving into a new city. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when it comes to affordability and trying to find housing, and you're all trying to find housing at the same time, and it makes it less stressful to have a huge like group of people also looking for housing, also like wanting to live in the same areas and like
making the same amount of money.
True. Yeah.
So like that's really nice, and then you get to know these people really well, so you find your friends, and then.
Yep. How about Megan? How about you? Like you're 3 years in, so you don't see your colleagues that you like they all do.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we all still keep in touch. We don't hang out as much just because, life kind of happens, I guess. Once you're out of the program, you don't see everybody on the day-to-day or the week-to-week.
Out of the coursework, the master's coursework, you mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes. So obviously you see each other there. And now that I'm in my third year and there aren't those commitments really, you kind of find your friends through the program or outside of the program and you stick with them. But one of the great things is, I'm sure the other cohorts do, but we have a Facebook group that everyone that's in our cohort is in. And so it's really nice because, I was looking for a lesson on something that I hadn't taught before. So I just threw it out there and I had like 4 of my cohort members be like, oh, I taught that last week. Like, here, I'll send you this resource. So that's really helpful. People do try and get together every once in a while. We'll try and make it like a huge thing where everyone kind of comes out together. But I would say I keep in touch with everyone, but it might not be as much as it was at the beginning of the program, just because that's kind of how I feel like it progresses.
And I know our sites are trying to provide social opportunities as well. So I don't know, does anyone want to speak to any of that? The support that you get from your site team. So I'm not talking about your coaches. Does anyone want to talk about that?
Who
wants to go first? Maybe DC. They were starting.
I'm sorry.
DC, you want to say what they're doing?
You said about like the site team.
Like site team.
Love them all.
Yeah, they're great.
We have a new site team member, Taisha. She's always like trying to do fun things. We have a dinner tomorrow night for us to go to, which is like free food and fun. We have happy hours that Amara always sets up, which is so nice.
So just to translate, so you all are talking about we have an executive director in each of our city. We have at least one assistant director, and in some places like DC 3. So that's who you're talking about, Taisha. And then each site also has a resident experience coordinator who also is responsible for some of the creating the social opportunities for folks in the program too.
I would say too, obviously the events, but they're also all very accessible. Like I was having, Candace is like my direct site director.
Another assistant director. Yep.
And she, like, even though she is in like a higher like executive position, like I emailed her and just like I was having a like kind of a personal problem and she really was like, okay, do you want to meet tomorrow? Like she really was on it and like willing to like kind of drop everything and help me. So that made me feel really good.
Yeah, and like to build on that point, Taisha is my
assistant director,
which seems like it would be this like lofty position where you would never see them. But I think it was last week she just showed up at my school and was like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, I'm great. And she's like, anything you want to talk about? So they are super accessible.
All right, Terrence, I know you're assistant directors too. They're awesome.
Yes. So we have 2 assistant directors, Monica and Ernest. Monica is my direct assistant director. And today she just happened to pop into my classroom and she was amazing. She just watched me work. But then surprisingly, after she left, Ernest, the other director, who I don't have much communication with him, but he texts me, which is like, hey, here you're doing great things. You're an amazing person. Keep going. So they always try to send us affirmations and things to keep us going. And then as far as the site team in general, the site team actually visited the school that we were taking our classes in, and our director ended up like teaching a small lesson today. So they're also like just very involved, and they don't just throw us out there and walk away. They really do try to help us out.
Yeah, Megan, do you want to speak to Baltimore?
Yeah, sure. So I've gotten a bunch of different invites for happy hours, different events. So not only just like with my cohort, but with across cohorts. So now I know people in the cohort that was before me and the cohort below me. Every winter in Baltimore, we have a like winter soiree where it's like a dinner with appetizers and everyone gets all dressed up and like it's really fun. I just got invited to an event at a winery near Baltimore. Like it literally just says like come and hang out, like let's go to this winery. So they definitely put forth the effort to make sure people stay involved and have fun events for us to do all together, which is really nice because sometimes when you're a teacher you just find yourself working all the time, which isn't bad, but it like it's really nice to have that support and be like, no, like, let's go out and do something else. So it's definitely really helpful.
So where I was going to go to with this conversation, it just matches perfectly with one of the questions here. So I did want to get in, and you were going there a little bit with like how you balance, you were talking about working all the time and how do you really create balance? And that was where I was headed. But the question I got here was also in the residency year, and truthfully, it is like as a teacher too. But the specific question is about residency. How many nights a week, and for how long do you attend class? How many hours a week would you say you dedicate to coursework? So it's always confusing in our language whether we're talking graduate coursework or lesson planning for kids in the class. But if you can be clear. And then to me, I want you to also talk about like how you really do balance, because we talk about that a lot as a program, because teacher burnout is a real thing. And the residency year is intense, if definitely by design. So you all want to talk about that, all of that? Who wants to go there? See, they're still smiling after coursework, my DC and my Dallas friends, right? After the long day here.
So we got up a little early tonight.
So as you can tell, we are in an elementary school at 48.
Yes, I appreciate that.
The balance is hard to find. Very, very hard to find. I would say that this, like, the summer was more intense than the fall, in my opinion, because you were taking 2 classes a night and prepping for 2 classes for the next day. In DC, we go to class from 5:30 to 8:30, Monday through Thursday. There is an occasional Friday session that usually won't go past like 6 or 7 o'clock.
We've gotten out pretty much every time at 5, I think.
Yeah. And then Saturdays. But I would say that we do, like, there's a lot of homework on the weekends. There's a lot of homework.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I feel like, though, at least one day a weekend, I take to myself, I would say. Like at least like Saturday, maybe never Sunday, Saturday. But it is like I would say pretty much every weekday, with the exception of Friday, is consumed. Like you can't really do anything else.
Yeah. And we do tell people that. So if anybody was thinking of having a job on the side or, coaching a sport, like definitely not during your residency year. And we kind of say not even your first year of teaching, because it is so intense still. You're still learning and need that time focus there. So just to add to that. So I don't know if Terrence, you want to speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah. So on Mondays we have class from 4 to 9 p.m. Yeah, girl. And then on Tuesdays, Thursdays, this is new schedule. So on Tuesday and Thursday we have class from 4 to 7 p.m. And then Wednesdays we have an online class from like 6 to something. I think it's 6 to 9. It hasn't started. It actually starts this coming up Wednesday. But on Wednesday we have class from like 6 to 9. And then Friday is our free day. Like they said, we do have homework most likely every night. But the beautiful thing about the homework is you're not doing anything that you won't use like the next day or like the coming up late. So it's not even really homework. It's just preparation to teach, because it's nothing that they give us is fluff. It's all that something that you actually use. So that's a beautiful thing. Summer Institute is, for me, I don't think I've had like a true Urban Teacher Summer Institute, because our summer here in Dallas started in August. So we took, I think it was 6 graduate courses in a 3-week span. So we had classes from 8 in the morning to 6 p.m., homework assignments every single night. We all thought we were going to die, but we made it.
But you didn't teach kids, so
Yeah,
that was
so
the trade-off.
we didn't teach.
But that won't happen again. So if you're listening in, Dallas Fort Worth Summer Institute is their first one to start next year. So
yes,
in June, and they will be with kids. So back to normal.
So once we survived that summer, we knew that this was going to be like pretty much a breeze. And I use breeze like loosely, because it's not a breeze. It is still very tough, but it's a lot easier than it was over the summer.
And then Megan, you're way, in a different space now. So any thoughts on what you're hearing and where you're now?
I mean, I agree with them. Residency year is definitely a marathon, not a sprint, although most of the time you feel like you're sprinting because of the amount of coursework, but it is completely applicable. And I found, I started this in my residency year, and my friend and I kept it up, where we were so overwhelmed doing homework once that we just got on like Living, Social, and Groupon and looked for a random event to go to. And so now we kind of still continue to do that, because it gives us a day to be like, oh, let's go to the Wing Festival, and we'll not talk about teaching. We won't talk about coursework, and we'll just focus on being a person. And so, every person deals with it differently. I would say it's a lot, but it's not impossible. It just, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. But yeah, it's definitely a marathon. So.
Great. And then do you feel like it's any less now, Megan? Like you're, a couple years in now, so.
Oh yeah, and I finally feel like I'm grounded and I know what I'm doing most of the time. So I've been taking on more roles at my school, which you kind of mentioned too. So like I'm going to be coaching a sport this year because I feel like I can handle coaching a sport this year. I've been taking classes through Baltimore City Public Schools for teachers. So I'm a science teacher this year. I taught math last year. So I'm taking a course that's helping me teach my curriculum, and I'm going to be TAing that course over the summer. So I'm really able to like expand my horizons within education now that I'm past the first year of teaching. So, there are a lot of things to do in education, and I finally feel like I'm getting there this year. So
great. Good. So I'm watching the clock a little bit. I know it's late for you all. So just if we can end, and if there's any more questions from folks who are listening in, now's the time. But as we're sort of wrapping up here, if there's any advice you have for folks on the call who are thinking about doing Urban Teachers and being a teacher in our program, any advice for them?
Well, my advice, and that's just, I think, for teaching in general, but particularly for this program, is to not have it be your backup plan. Like, you have to truly want to do this program in order to survive it, because it is tough. It is tough. So you have to want it. And I also, if you haven't taken your test yet, your content area test, study. So I made the horrible mistake of thinking I was just so smart that I didn't have to study, and I failed my first time. So I would suggest that you do study for your content area exam as well.
So we do require Praxis Core for DC, Baltimore, and one of the PAC tests for Texas. And we have for the first time ever free online on-demand math support for Praxis Core now. And then we're about to have it this next week for PACT for math, because that is the most common ones that people have trouble with. So we hope that will help everybody. So if you're listening, we have those resources available now. So thank you for mentioning that. Anybody? Megan, Emily, Amelia, advice?
Oh, I guess one piece of advice is really to think about what your goal is. If your goal is to be like a really great teacher, then I do think that this is the program that will prepare you for that. Because already we've all seen it. We all feel so much more comfortable in the classroom. And I know now that next year when I step into my classroom, it's going to be a very different story than it would have been if I hadn't done the program.
Great.
I would agree with that. And just like, I almost like exactly what you just said, just keep sight of like your original intentions, because it's very easy to get like swamped and bogged down in the day to day, and nothing's changing, and you're getting kicked every day. But then it's like you have to remember, like, why did I do this? Find the joy in at least one of your students and go from there.
Right. And Megan, you've closed out my webinars before, and here you go.
No pressure. I would say if you decide this program is the one for you, to go in with an open mind and be completely receptive to everything that you learn in here. So, and that does not always mean positive things. So just make sure that you're ready to hear different things from your coaches, your host teacher, all that stuff. Take it all in, because this is the type of program where you should take it all in. And then when you step into the classroom after your first year, you make everything your own. And so it's important to go into the program with the open mind, because it is, you know, you kind of live on the open mindset in UT. So you need to be ready for that. But I would definitely recommend the program to anyone that is committed to being a teacher, and it will set you up for success.
Great. All right. Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much. I know it's late for you all. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. This was great. Sorry for my snafus earlier, and so glad everyone was able to, it worked out in the end. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.